Peace does not come from guns and bullets. A global message from a Caodai Tien Thien holy sanctuary. The history of Caodai Tien Thien cannot be separated from the struggle for national independence of the Vietnamese people throughout the 20th century. It was not a religion born in times of peace, nor a spiritual tradition withdrawn from worldly affairs. Rather, it was a spiritual path conceived, tempered, and affirmed amid the most tragic yet heroic chapters of the nation's history. From its earliest days, Caodai Tien Thien brought together within its leadership ranks patriotic intellectuals who had participated in, or were profoundly influenced by, early revolutionary movements such as the Dong Du movement, the Southern Secret Societies, and the Southern Uprising. For them, practicing the way could not be separated from saving the nation. Self-cultivation could not turn its back on the fate of the people. It was precisely this spirit that enabled Caodai Tien Thien to emerge early on as a religious, national force with a clear sense of independence and self-determination. History bears witness to the heavy sacrifices endured by the faith. 36 high-ranking leaders were imprisoned on Caodai Island, subjected to brutal incarceration for a single shared ideal, to protect the Dharma while upholding national independence. 3 successive popes of Caodai Tien Thien embodied a profound patriotic spirit. Remaining steadfast under political pressure, refusing to bow to coercive power, and consistently placing the destiny of the nation alongside the sacred mission of religion. When the country entered the most devastating war of its modern history, Caodai Tien Thien once again chose the path of engagement with the world. The Nguong Thien Dai at Ngoc Sun Quang was constructed not merely as a sacred architectural work, but as a moral declaration against war. There, the Peace Prayer Congress was convened, gathering tens of thousands of people, religious communities, social organizations, and international voices, united in a single aspiration, to end the war and restore the Vietnamese people's right to self-determination. From the prisons of Con Dao to the Nguong Thien platform gazing toward heaven, the history of Caodai Tien Thien has engraved an immutable truth. Love for one's country is not expressed solely through weapons, but also through moral principles, sacrifice, and an unwavering aspiration for peace, for both the nation and humanity. 1. Peace, an ever unanswered question of humanity. Throughout history, humanity has never ceased to speak of peace. Treaties have been signed, speeches delivered, and international organizations established in the name of peacekeeping. Yet the bitter paradox remains: the more advanced civilization becomes, the more sophisticated humanity grows in destroying itself. The 21st century, an age of science, artificial intelligence, and globalization, continues to witness war, conflict, terrorism, genocide, and religious hatred. This reality raises a fundamental question that has never been conclusively answered. Where does true peace come from? Can peace be imposed through weapons, military superiority, or the submission of the weak before the strong? Or is peace merely a fragile pause between two wars, a temporary ceasefire before violence re-emerges in another form? In this context, from a small land in the Mekong Delta of Vietnam, a religious message arises, not through gunfire or political power, but through moral principles and spirituality. This message is crystallized in the image of the Nguong Thien Dai at Ngoc Sun Quang of Caodai Tien Thien, a sacred monument not only of the Caodai community, but of Vietnam's history of peace itself. 2. Vietnam, a nation that paid a heavy price for the word peace. To understand the peace message of Caodai Tien Thien, the world must first understand Vietnam's historical context. Vietnam is not a warlike nation. On the contrary, Its history is that of a small people repeatedly thrust into cycles of war, compelled to take up arms to survive, not to conquer. In the 20th century, Vietnam became one of the world's most brutal battlegrounds. Millions of lives were lost. The land devastated, families torn apart, and social morality deeply scarred. In such circumstances, the Vietnamese people came to understand better than anyone that military victory does not equate to peace of the human heart. Weapons may end a war, but they cannot heal hatred unless humanity transforms its consciousness and moral foundations. It was precisely amid this blood-soaked and tear-filled history that Caodai Tien Thien chose neither extremism nor detachment. Instead, it chose a more difficult path, to struggle for peace through moral principles, national spirit, and a spiritual awareness of humanity's shared destiny. 3. Nguong Thien Sn Quang, when religion confronts history. In 1970, at the height of the Vietnam War, Caodai Tien Thien organized the Peace Prayer Congress at Ngoc Sun Quang Holy Sanctuary in Vinh Long Province. This was not merely a religious ritual, but a courageous act of engagement with history. More than 100 delegations from religious communities and social organizations, along with tens of thousands of participants, gathered to raise a unified voice, demanding an end to the war, affirming Vietnam's right to self-determination, and calling for peace for all humanity. This voice resonated internationally, was acknowledged by global media, and contributed to the moral pressure that compelled major powers to enter negotiations. Eventually leading to the Paris Peace Accords, the Nguong Thien Dai emerged in that context as a symbol embodying engaged spirituality and peace. Nguong Thien, to gaze toward heaven, does not signify an escape from reality, but a reminder that all worldly actions must be placed under the light of divine moral law. 4. Peace does not come from guns and bullets, a declaration of spiritual philosophy. The core message of the Nguong Thien Dai at Ngoc Sun Quang can be summarized in a seemingly simple yet profoundly deep statement: peace does not come from guns and bullets. According to Caodai Tien Thien teachings, war is not merely armed conflict, but an outward manifestation of a rupture in humanity's understanding of its own spiritual essence. When people forget that they and others share the same sacred origin, as children of God, hatred, discrimination, and violence inevitably arise. The doctrine "the master is you, and you are the master" establishes a radical foundation for peace. Human beings are equal not because of laws or treaties, but because they share the same divine essence. Love is not an optional moral choice, but a sacred and binding duty. Therefore, peace cannot be imposed from outside, it must be cultivated from within human consciousness and collective life. 5. Compassion and justice, the foundations of true peace. Caodai Tien Thien does not speak of peace in vague terms. It establishes two concrete pillars: compassion and justice. Compassion is not weak pity, but familial love arising from the awareness of a shared Heavenly Father. Justice is not merely worldly law, but equitable treatment among individuals, races, and religions. When compassion lacks justice, peace becomes superficial. When justice lacks compassion, peace becomes cold and violent. Only when both walk together can peace be enduring. 6. A Vietnamese holy sanctuary, a global message. Today, the Nguong Thien Dai at Ngoc Sun Quang is recognized as a national historical, cultural monument, not only for its architecture or historical events, but for the spiritual values it represents. In a world torn by division, its message remains strikingly relevant. There can be no peace if religion is turned into a tool of hatred. There can be no peace if a nation is deprived of its right to self-determination. there can be no peace if humanity forgets its own sacred identity. From a humble sanctuary in Vietnam, Caodai Tien Thien has sent forth a message that transcends time and borders. Peace is not the product of power, but of awakening. 7. Gazing toward heaven to live worthy of being human. Nguong Thien does not mean gazing at a distant God, separated from human life. In the spirit of Caodai Tien Thien, it is a way of living and an inner awakening, to look toward heaven in order to realize that heaven dwells within oneself and within others. When people kill in the name of God, that is not the will of heaven, but the tragedy of delusion and the loss of humanity's sacred identity. Caodai Tien Thien affirms the consubstantial relationship between God and humanity through the teaching, the Master is you, and you are the Master. This is not a mere abstraction, but the spiritual foundation of peace itself. When humans recognize their shared divine origin, violence, discrimination, and war lose all moral justification. Conversely, when God is exalted too far above and humanity degraded too low, religion becomes an instrument of power, and weapons speak in place of moral truth. Then Nguong Thien Dai at Ngoc's son Quang stands as a silent witness to Vietnamese history. Its silence is not indifference, but the crystallization of a truth that has been lived, paid for, and affirmed amid war and suffering. From years of imprisonment and repression to the Peace Prayer Congress of 1970, Caodai Tien Thien chose the path of engaged spirituality, opposing war not with hatred, but with prayer, struggling not through violence, but through conscience and national spirit. The message from Ngoc's son Quang is clear and unwavering. Weapons may end a war, but they cannot create peace. True peace does not begin with the submission of the defeated, but with the awakening of humanity. It arises when compassion walks hand in hand with justice, when the self-determination of nations is respected, and when religion returns to its true role, as a path that opens the human heart, not a cause of division. In this sense, the Nguong Thien Dai at Ngoc's son Quang is not merely a national historical, cultural monument, but a living symbol of Vietnamese spiritual philosophy and identity. From a humble sanctuary, Caodai Tien Thien has sent forth a message beyond time and borders. Peace does not come from destructive power, but from the capacity to love, forgive, and live faithfully to the divine within every human being. Ultimately, Nguong Thien is about living worthily as a human being, living without shame before heaven, without turning one's back on the nation, and without betraying one's own conscience. If this content has resonated with you, please like, comment, share, and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss future meaningful videos. Thank you for accompanying us.